Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Friend. Today we're going to be talking about your net worth and why it's important for you to know that number. And you've certainly heard people talk about their net worth. For example, you may hear that a particular celebrity is worth $30 million, but what exactly does that mean? And for you in particular, why does it matter for you to know that number? Now we're going to go over all of that shortly. First, we're going to be talking about what your net worth is comprised of. Now your net worth is comprised of two components: your assets on one side, which we're going to be going over shortly, and your liabilities on the other side. Now, what are considered assets? Now, assets are anything that you currently own. It may be something that is tangible or it may be something that is digital. And when it comes to assets for the average American, we're going to be going over the most common ones. For example, the first one is cash, and that's pretty simple. Any amount of money that you have in your wallet or anywhere in your house is considered an asset. Next, we're going to go to your checking and savings account. Any money that you currently have as a balance on your checking account is an asset to you. And the same goes for anything that is in your savings account. Now, if you own any vehicles, for example, if you own a car, if you own a motorcycle, these are considered assets as well. They go in the asset column of your balance sheet. Next, we have real estate. For example, if you have your personal residence, that's considered an asset. You may have additional real estate, for example, rental properties. These are considered assets because you own them. And for anyone who's doing well financially, they may have vacation homes, for example. These are all considered assets. Next, if you are a business owner and you have a profitable business, that business is considered an asset because you may be able to sell that business if you no longer wish to own it. And some sort of valuation can be done for the business to determine its value. And then you have additional items that may be considered assets, and they're often referred to as collectibles. Like if you have any jewelry, if you have any diamond rings, any gold chains, basically any piece of jewelry that is valuable that you could sell and get money from, that's considered an asset. And as part of collectibles, you also have pieces of art, for example. That's considered an asset. Basically, an asset is anything that you own that you could sell and get money for it. Now we go to the other side, which is liabilities. What are liabilities? Liabilities are basically any money that you owe. For example, if you have a balance on anything that you purchase, it's considered a liability to you, because even though you may have the item or that you may own the property, if you do not own them outright, therefore you owe money on them, then it's a liability. For example, the balance on your mortgage. If you have a house which is on the asset side, the house technically is not entirely yours until you've actually paid it off. And the same goes for any vehicles that you may own. For example, if you own a car, but it's not fully paid off yet, and let's say the balance on that loan is $6,000. Therefore, it's not entirely yours yet, which means it's a liability to you. Next, if you have any credit card debt, that's a balance that you're carrying from month to month. Let's say you're just making the minimum payment on that balance. That balance is considered a liability to you because it's money that you owe the bank. Additional types of liabilities would be medical bills, for example. You got sick, you incurred some medical debt, that's considered a liability to you because you still owe a balance to the hospital. Next, you have student loans, for example. You went to school, you took out some student loans, therefore you need to pay them back. You have the education, you have the degree, however, you still have a student loan balance, therefore that's a liability to you. Additional types of liabilities would be a personal loan, for example. If you go to your local bank or wherever you bank and you ask the bank for a personal loan, that's considered a liability to you. So now that we know what assets are and what liabilities are, how do we determine your net worth? So to determine that, we're going to be doing a little exercise. Now, using pretty much the same assets that we've just gone over and the same liabilities, we'll just add a money amount to them. For example, let's say you have $100 in cash. That would be considered an asset. Now, let's say you have $1,000 in your checking account. That's considered an asset. And in your savings account, you have $2,000 saved. That's considered an asset. Let's say you currently have a car that you financed, say, 4 years ago, and the current market value of that car is $11,000. So if you were to sell it, you'd be able to get $11,000 for it. Now we go down to real estate. Let's say your personal property is the only property that you have, and it's currently valued at $340,000. So if you were to put it on the market right now and sold it, you'd get $340,000 for it. So that goes on the asset side. And for the sake of simplicity, let's say you don't have any additional personal loans, you don't own a business, and you don't have any jewelry. If we added all of these together, you would have $354,100 in assets, which basically means that if you were to sell all of your assets right now, you would get $354,100 for them. Now we go to the other side, to the liabilities side. Now remember, you have your house. It's currently valued at $340,000, but let's say you have $40,000 worth of equity in that house, which basically means that you've paid down the balance by $40,000. And that would basically mean that you still owe $300,000 on that house. Let's say that's the liability. Your mortgage balance is $300,000. Next, you have your car, which is valued at $11,000, but you still have a loan on it. And let's say the loan is $6,000. And because we talked about credit cards, let's say you have credit card debt in the amount of $3,500 that you cannot pay off in full. That's considered a liability. And let's say you don't have any medical debt. And next, you have student loan debt in the amount of $25,000. And once again, for the sake of simplicity, you don't have any personal loans. So now on the liability side, if you added all of these up, you would have total liabilities in the amount of $334,500. Now that we know your total asset is $354,100, we're going to subtract your liabilities from that amount, which is $334,500. So the result of that subtraction would be $19,600. That is your net worth, which is basically your assets minus your liabilities. Now, please be aware that your net worth may be a positive number, as it is in this case, or it may be a negative number, which would basically mean that your liabilities are much higher than your assets. That way you would get a negative net worth. So whatever the case may be, whether it ends up being a negative number or a positive number, it's very important to know that number because it allows you to track your financial progress. And tracking your financial progress, especially if it's going in the right direction, can actually motivate you to continue to work towards that, therefore continuing to improve your finances as time goes by. And of course, knowing that number allows you to see your overall financial health. The same way that you and I go to the doctors to get an annual physical just to make sure that we're overall healthy, we should be doing the exact same thing with our finances. The reason why we have an annual physical is to make sure that we're healthy, and if anything is not right, to fix it. So the same thing applies to your finances. And I want you to have the same attitude towards that. You want to know your net worth so that you know what's not going right so that you can make it right. So if you have a negative net worth, you should try to work as hard as you possibly can to go towards having a positive net worth. And once you have a positive net worth, you should continue to work at it to make sure that your net worth increases over time. Now, I understand perfectly well that calculating your net worth, knowing that it is going to be a negative number, may be a daunting task. And it may even be discouraging. However, if your goal is to improve your financial situations in the future, knowing your net worth is actually one of the first steps that you should be taking towards improving your finances. Increasing your net worth, therefore increasing your overall financial situation over time. And once you have a positive net worth, if you continue to do exactly that, you will put yourself in a position where you can build wealth over time. Nowadays, there are many tools that you can use to track your finances and to track your net worth. And one of those examples is the Mint app. Alternatively, you can go to mint.com. It's something that I've personally used in the past. However, because I've been doing that for years and it's not a number that I need to know on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, I only calculate that number quarterly. It only takes me like 5 minutes to just log into all of these accounts on my phone and using an Excel spreadsheet on my phone, plug in the numbers and get a new net worth update. And personally, like I said, I do it quarterly. So generally, I'll do it on January 1st, on April 1st, on July 1st, and on October 1st, plus or minus a couple days, in case I don't get to do it exactly on that particular day. Now you know what your net worth is, you know how to calculate it, and you know that simply knowing that number can empower you, encourage you to improve your financial situations. Now, I strongly recommend that you take the time, sit down, calculate that number. It may be minus $50,000, it may be minus $100,000, but it's something that will change over time, provided that you put in the effort to make sure that it happens. Personally, I can say that I feel in a much better financial situation now than I did 5 years ago or than I did 10 years ago. So you shouldn't really expect any major changes to happen overnight. It's something that's going to take months, years for you to achieve. That's it. If you really like this video, please comment, like, share, and subscribe because it really does help me grow the channel. And also don't forget to hit the bell button to be notified as soon as I release my next video. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.